Today, ladies, I want to talk about emotional overcorrecting. Okay. The problem comes at you, whatever the problem is, and you swerve to avoid it. So think about whatever emotional problem that is. Maybe it's your husband struggling with pornography. Maybe it's a child. Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe it's a circumstantial shift, right? The problem comes at you and you swerve to avoid it. Again, that's not bad. It's not bad to swerve to try and avoid it. But in an attempt to get back, you overcorrect. And it's often that action that creates the accident. So I'm going to go through several examples today that'll help solidify this and maybe give you a clue so you can start seeing or noticing if you're doing this in your own life. Okay. The first example that came to my mind is with your parents. Okay. I see this all over the place. So many parents, like when you start parenting, when you think about how you were raised and you think about what your parents did, so many of you struggle with how your parents raised you. You don't like the way that your dad talked to you. You don't like how your mom made you do X, Y, and Z. And because you don't like that, because you are saying that that is negative, then your brain overcorrects and swings to the exact opposite, right? We say, my parents did it this way, so I'm never going to do it that way. You guys heard this? When I grow up and I have kids, I'm never going to do X, Y, and Z, right? That is like so common. But the problem with this is that when we say that, we give up the positive things that our parents did. Okay. We write it off as all completely negative. We say, I'm never going to be like my parents. If we have a negative thought or feeling or story about our parents, and we don't look at it with a lens of curiosity, and we aren't willing to take something from it, we want to completely write it off and swing in the opposite direction or emotionally overcorrect. So here's what that looks like. Let's say that your parents were very disciplinary, okay? And you hated it as a kid and you felt like you were always in trouble and you could never do anything right. Then emotional overcorrecting might look like swinging to the exact opposite and saying, I'm never going to discipline my kids because I hated it when my parents did it. Does this make sense? We're swinging from one extreme to the other. We're saying, I don't like what my parents did. I have this story, but in order to keep that story, then we can't take anything positive from what they did. We have to have it all be negative, which means we can't emulate it at all. We can't copy anything from it, because if we do, then that means that we're just like them. Okay. Do you guys see the problem with this? So then what it does is it hinders us from actually taking anything positive from that experience. Because the truth is, ladies, is that it was probably more like 50-50. Maybe there was some positive, but there was probably some negative and some positive in what your parents were doing. And when we only keep the story that it was 100% negative, we can't take anything from it, because then we're just like them. So what we do is we emotionally overcorrect. We have the story that our parents and everything that they did was wrong. And so we can't do anything that they did. So we overcorrect and do nothing that they did. When the reality is that it was probably more like there could have been probably some things that were positive. Maybe there were a few things that they disciplined on that were actually okay to discipline on. Maybe they disciplined, but you don't like how they disciplined. Maybe that's what we keep instead. Instead, we often swing to the exact opposite. And that is a struggle, again, because we end up creating a different set of problems. Okay. Like when you don't discipline your children at all, then you have a bunch of kids who are completely undisciplined and they don't listen to you and whatever else problems that ends up creating. Right. So in an effort not to be your mom and not to have the relationship that you had with your mom or feel like how you did, now you have a struggle in that you can't parent your children because you don't know how to discipline them, because you can't be like your parent.